Ladies and gentlemen, it is now cue to invite forward the Honorable Union Minister for External Affairs, Mr. Salman Khurshid. He began his political career in the year 1981. He was a lawyer by profession before that, as a special officer in the office of the then Prime Minister, Srimati Indira Gandhi. Since then, Mr. Salman Khurshid has served in key positions in the government of India and has made an extremely effective contribution to the growth and development of our nation. He's a highly respected human being and a very respected politician. Ladies and gentlemen, with pleasure, I give you Mr. Salman Khurshid.
Thank you very much. I think there's so many venerable people here that if it's all right, I will stand and speak to you. It's impolite to sit and speak to venerable people, His Holiness, Swamiji, all very distinguished faces here. Should I come there? Thank you. I was just wondering when you speak of, I can give this back to you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, thank you, when I heard these wonderful speeches, Dr. Modi, I don't know if you count yourself as amongst the spiritual people, the political people, or the business people. But really, I think that there was a spiritual tinge in what you said. And you spoke of commonality of human vision, of human dreams, the desire to bring together. Dr. Walsh gave us the direction and your desire to bring the world together into one large family. Something that's been done repeatedly over the millennium. And something that has sometimes succeeded, sometimes it hasn't succeeded. As I stand here and I'm conscious of the fact that there are people here who have devoted their lives to the cause of universality of the human soul. I see here people who have, as His Holiness said, who've devoted 2,500 years to prayer. I know prayer is something which is symptomatic of structuring our thoughts in a way in which ordinary people can understand them. But there is a prayer within which doesn't have words, it doesn't have a structure, it doesn't have formality, form, but it's a prayer that's always within, and I think everybody has it. And somebody who doesn't have it would be so hollow, or would be so incomplete as a human being. But really looking at the vastness of your ambition, from what Dr. Walsh said, appeared to me a lot like the vision that the leaders of the world must have had when they formed the United Nations and came together after the trauma of 2 world wars, and wanted to dedicate to the world a message that war will never happen again. But we know that wars have happened, and have happened despite the United Nations, and now there's talk about how we can reform the United Nations to make it more effective. You've also had your own way of, at different levels, through the civil society, through NGOs, through the meeting of minds of concerned people, to find ways and means of communicating and to find a world of greater happiness and greater comfort. But as you were speaking, Modi Saab, first of all, I must tell you that you have said that I should, and people like me who are in the world of politics, should think globally, and we should think of becoming global leaders. But when you say that, we are acutely conscious of our inadequacies. We are constantly being told in our system, go back to the village, go back to the grassroots, be a commoner, be close to the soil. And you are saying, why don't you fly a little higher and reach for the sky and try for the moon and think of the vast big world. And this is a terrible, terrible tension that reminds me of a debate that I attended at Oxford University, in which Benazir Bhutto, by the way, was the president of Oxford University at that time, and Karan Thapar, who had completed his term as president of the Cambridge University Students' Union, was also there. And there was a debate about, interesting debate which said, a smoke before and a drink after are the three best things in life. And on that, the person who was leading the debate from the Oxford side took out a cigarette packet and said, now look at this cigarette packet, speaking of smoking. It says, on the packet it says, by appointment to Her Majesty the Queen of England, right? But if you flip it around, it says, warning of the Inspector General of Health, smoking can be injurious to your health. And he said, now this is a terrible, terrible tension. Her Majesty wants me to smoke, but her Inspector General says it's bad for my health. And that's what, and that's the tension that you put me in, saying, come be global, and I'm being told elections are 3 months away, and everyone is saying, please come and be in the village, right? So it's a tension. It's a terrible tension. On the other hand, do you know, I can't resist this. I was thinking of what I could say that would make people laugh. And I thought, well, if you just look at what's happening in India today, and I see you speaking here, I thought the word and the name Modi is becoming very arm in the country. And you see, we can't even say, nowadays, we can't even say in normal conversation, aap kaise hain? Because somebody thinks I'm asking about the Delhi government. This is what sometimes events do to you, that they even prevent you from using language, or language gives a wrong impression. But I'm saying this on the serious note. There is a revolution of sorts that took place in Delhi, because people said that institutional form of politics and democracy is inadequate. And we have to go to another level, which is the grassroots level. And then again, I remembered, when I see the signs of our present Chief Minister of Delhi climbing over a pole to cut electricity connections, I remembered my conversation with the first generation of leadership in South Africa when President Mandela, who frankly, in our times, after Mahatma Gandhi, I think is unquestionably the greatest spiritual soul that we could have had the privilege to be able to live with. And I was happy when I was able to shake hands with that remarkable, remarkable doyen of peace. He was just taking over, and I met his home minister, and I asked him what the job was like. He said, it's awful, it's awful. 40 years I've spent my time blowing up bridges, and now I'm told I have to ensure that they are safe. Now, that's a terrible, terrible thing for me. So things change, and I'm sure that what you're trying to do will change me, you, and everybody else undoubtedly. But I was wondering, if everybody became global citizens, and there was a global government, and there was peace in the world, there would be no job for a foreign minister to do. So what would I be? What would I be in your cabinet of global citizens? What would I be? But anyway, what I want to say to you is that you've talked about 3 countries, role of India, China, and USA. As an India's foreign minister, it is difficult for me to say that the world will be sorted out by India, China, and the USA. We have BRICS, and we have IPSA. We also have, of course, the United Nations, and we have the ASEAN, and we have SAARC, and we have our associations with Africa, as you mentioned, with ASEAN, with Latin America, and the whole world. This is just a beginning, I assume, that we will begin with these 3 countries, but we have the whole globe to reach out to, because you said you want a borderless world. If there is a borderless world, then the disputes about the borders will disappear. But the borders are not on the ground. The borders are in the mind and in hearts. And therefore, if we have to begin towards a borderless world, we have to begin in our hearts and in our minds. And if we have to begin to discover ourselves as global citizens, then we have to first ensure that we stop being citizens of countries, cities, districts, and places that we consider to be our region. Why do people really think of themselves as being Indians, or as being Americans, or of being Indian Americans, or being American Indians? Why is that so? Because, you know, when you're alone, you want to see something that you can empathize with. If you can find something, if you bring up an animal, which is an orphan, a cat or a dog, and you bring it up, it thinks that it's your child, and it thinks that it's a human being, and you think that it's a human being, because you have broken the shackles of your mind and said, no, it's the soul that matters, not the shape and the form. It's the soul that matters. And that's what we did when we broke the back of apartheid. That is what Mahatma Gandhi did when he said the temples must open up for anybody and everybody, and there are no untouchables. The so-called untouchables are actually children of God. And that's what Mahatma Gandhi did, is to unshackle our own limitations. And we can unshackle our limitations. But how we are to unshackle our limitations is a matter of strategy and tactics. You can unshackle it by going and sitting by the Ganga and forgetting everything. You can unshackle it by running an outstanding economic entity like Smart Foundation or Smart Corporation. You can do it by becoming the best teacher. You can do it by thinking of a school that has no walls, a school without walls. You can do it by making a drop in an ocean some difference to somebody sometime during the day, to go home to say, I really have made a difference in somebody's life. Now, you want to do this on a large scale. You want to do it with millions of people, but it has to be a B.K. Modi with the broad shoulders that you have to be able to do it with billions of people. But I think the fact that you do it with billions of people is important, but it's important if somebody can do it with one person, one single person whose hand you can hold and let them cross a minefield of uncertainty. I think that's really what your vision is. I stand by here to say I am delighted to be considered as a person, despite being a politician, fit to be in your larger vision of a global citizenship. And for being considered as a candidate for a global citizen is something that I find is a great, great honor. Of course, Dr. Thomas Walsh has already recognized you as the first amongst global citizens, and therefore we would be very happy to follow in your footsteps. It is a daunting task. There is a big challenge because, you know, people are fighting all kinds of terrible forces in the world. The most common thing that people are interested in fighting, and you mentioned it as well, is corruption. People assume that corruption is about taking money to give somebody his or her entitlement. I think corruption is more than that. I think corruption is not treating a human being as a human being. That is corruption. Corruption is when you see darkness where there is light. That is corruption. Corruption is when you say words that you should not be speaking. Corruption is when you cannot recognize that in a little girl child there is the visage of your mother. Corruption is when you don't understand and you don't care that what you are doing is going to hurt somebody else down the road. Corruption is if you don't care. I think a caring person would not ask anybody for money to do the job. And even if he did, he would take money to go and give it to somebody who was hungry. And you know, when I was in college, I saw a film called, and some of you perhaps know about it, called The Bicycle Thief. It was a man who was an honest man, but he stole a bicycle. And he stole a bicycle because he couldn't bear to see his children hungry. Now, I think that you punish a person who stole a bicycle to feed his children, you're actually corrupt yourself. Because if you can't see why he stole the bicycle, why not being able to tolerate the hunger of your children at home? And then what comes to my mind is a story of Valmiki, the story of the bishop and the candlesticks. You know, it is corruption to feel that somebody has stolen something from you, not knowing that that person stole because he couldn't, in the circumstances, not steal. And you know the story of the bishop and the candlestick is that when the policeman brought the candlesticks back and brought the man who had stolen the candlesticks from the bishop's house, he said, "You've got it wrong. I gifted these candlesticks to this man," right? And that's how a saint is born. You know, you're not looking for global citizens. You're looking for saints. And you have some here. You will create more. May I wish you well. In your desire, you have made a lot of little mobile phones.